Hello, everyone. This is Victor Dominguez. I'm with Business Performance USA, and we welcome you here today, and thank you for joining us. We are definitely excited to present to you and introduce to you Milton Corsi. The topic today, of course, is Inspiring Those We Lead, and it's really all about employee engagement. And the bottom line is employee engagement is all about the bottom line. So this is a lot of soft skills interaction here, but indeed this is all about strategic implementation, operational excellence, and really taking your company to the next level by tapping into the power of the people that you have in your organization. So thanks again for joining us, and we are Business Performance USA. We are a voluntary organization that give our time and energies to share the exact same expertise we do with our clients. We are a collection of consultants, and we believe in the capital markets, but we also believe in human talent, and we think there's a proper way to bridge and bring together the both. So we work on people development, and we develop better processes, and we manage performance for the betterment of everyone, employees, stakeholders, investors, and certainly our community. So thank you and welcome. Happy to have you here today. I want to introduce you quickly to Milton Corsi. You can see him up on the right, but first I'm just going to take a couple of minutes here, not that long, a few seconds really, to make sure this hour is worth your time. We do encourage you to ask questions or chat with us, whatever is most intuitive for you. If you look at the interface controls for GoToMeeting, you'll find that there's a chat feature and questions. Whatever works, just drop in a question. We think that's beneficial for everyone. It makes it dynamic, but we want you to learn, and we want you to be able to practice what Milton is showing you today and improve your organization. You can also follow up with me. Send me an email, victor@businessperformanceusa.org, and I'll get right back to you, and I will facilitate those questions. I may answer them. I may get a genuine expert like Cynthia Stewart and Dr. Jeff Stewart to help answer questions as well. And of course, you can always watch this webinar again once we post it on our website and on YouTube. So there you go. I do want you to know a little bit about Milton Corsi. Again, he is the CEO of Evolution Management, Training and Consulting. They are a leading provider of employee training. And Milton is a dynamic guy. We've known him for a number of years. He has a genuine passion for education, and he knows from personal experience what is transformative for people and how to help them shift to their full potential. In pursuit of his passions and purpose to educate others, he founded this business, Evolution, to help businesses develop their leaders and master the challenges of today's world. In addition, Milton was the Associate Professor of Business and Dean of Administration for Gloucester County College for a combined 15 years. Milton works with businesses using his core competencies in business development, operational management, competitive strategies, strategic and tactical business planning, sales force development, communications, problem solving, and decision making. So basically, he's a busy man. Now, people love Milton, and we do too, for his compassionate heart and his true solid character, his professional demeanor, and I don't know that he's ever had an unhappy day. He's just a joyful, kind individual, and we're sure you'll experience that as well. We hope you'll enjoy learning from Milton, and I just want to give you some information on him. If you care to contact Milton directly and bypass me, then congratulations, you're going straight to the source. Here is his contact information and telephone number, milton@evolutiontrainingandconsulting.com. And with that, Milton, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you do your thing. So the controls are with you.
Okay. Well, Victor, thank you so very much for that very, very nice introduction. I'd like to say hello to everybody, and I'm really excited about spending some time with you today to really talk to you a bit about what Victor said about how we can inspire those that we lead, and how can we, once we've got them, how can we keep them engaged in the process going forward. So we're going to kind of like break today's webinar down into those two kind of distinct sections. The first is going to be like, how do we make sure that we get the right folks? Now, I want to put the slides here. 70%. 70%. That's an important number because if you look at the slide, in the most recent Gallup study, the Gallup organization found that only 30% of all employees are actually engaged and inspired in their work. So that means that we have 70% of people who are either not engaged or, even worse, actively disengaged. And you can see it costs businesses in the United States alone an ungodly sum of money, somewhere between $450 and $550 billion annually get lost simply because people haven't bought in, aren't all in to their work. So, the question that we might raise from that is, why is that? Why is that? And before, I start to share with you specifically why I believe that is, I have just a few questions for you. And obviously, because it's a webinar, I don't know how interactive it's going to be, but these are just food for thought. I'd like you to ask yourself these questions, and they're right here on the slide for you. Right, the first one is, why is a company like Apple so innovative? Right, they're just a computer company. They really aren't any different than their competitors at Dell or Samsung or any other computer manufacturers. But year after year after year, they're always the most innovative company out there. They keep developing new products, new categories at a rate that no one else does. But if you think about them, it doesn't really make a whole heck of a lot of sense, at least to me, and maybe one of you has an answer. I'd be very interested in hearing and understanding that. But, they have access to the same, engineers and like the same consultants, the same marketing gurus and all those kind of good things, but they always seem to lead. Now, I have a similar question for you about Martin Luther King Jr., right? He led the civil rights movement. But why him? He was a very, very dynamic and eloquent speaker. And he was a man who knew firsthand the indignity and the implications, shall we say, of like the Jim Crow South. But he wasn't the only one. What made him unique? Why him? Third and finally, I'd like you to think about the Wright brothers. Those two brothers who succeeded if you're going to have controlled man-powered flight. Now, there are other teams that were more highly capitalized, that had a more well-prepared team, if you think about it. The interesting thing I found out about the Wright brothers is no one on the team had a college education that included Orville or Wilbur. But somehow they succeeded where others failed. They were able to put together these groups of people, these teams, that were able to succeed. So why is that? Well, I think that the answer lies in this very, very simple graphic that you have on your slide now. Right? And it's called the Golden Circle. I became aware of this probably about 2 years ago. And essentially, we're going to walk away from the outside of this circle into the bullseye. Okay? And I think that it will answer some of the questions that we just asked on that previous slide. Now, the blue circle, the outermost part of that circle, is kind of the what question, what we do, what business we're in. Now, everybody on this webinar and every business person that you bump into can answer that question if you ask them what they do. Well, I'm an attorney, I run a law firm. I'm an engineer, I run an engineering company. I'm an architect. I have a Asian fusion restaurant, okay? That's for what we do. Everybody knows that, the answer to that question. That golden circle, or the yellow circle, that concentric circle inside, really begs the question of how. Now, if you want to talk in business parlance, you might say this is our value proposition. This is what makes us unique in the marketplace. And some companies and some people can answer that question. They can tell you how they're different. Why you might want to do business with my law firm. All of our attorneys are graduates of Harvard, Yale, and University University of Pennsylvania Law School. They've all clerked with Supreme Court justices, things like that, things that make you unique in the marketplace. But let's go to that third and that big red dot right there in the center. That's our why. And why are we in business? And by why, I'm not talking about to earn a profit. The profit is a result. Right? We all hope to earn a profit. But the why, what drives you, what motivates you, what gets you up in the morning? And more importantly, why should I or anyone else care? This includes the people who are going to be working for you. Why should they care? So think about the circle again, the golden circle on the outside. We have the what we do. Everybody knows that. Next we have the how we do it, what makes us unique. In the center is the why. And I'm going to share with you my thoughts. And my thought is that at the end of the day, people don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. You say it one more time. People don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. And you might ask, well, why is he talking about what people buying from me when this is a webinar ostensibly about the people who I'm leading, the people on my team, the people who I want to engage? Well, the first sale that you have to make is to those folks, right? To those people who are going to be in your inner circle, those people who are going to help you express your why, shall we say, to the world. It's important that you're able to articulate and communicate to that to them, because if you're able to do that, you're going to connect with the right people. The right people are going to become part of your circle, and then your job from that point forward is how you keep them engaged. Now, there's one last thing that I want to talk to you about this whole golden circle idea, and really, I think this is important because what I'm sharing with you, this isn't really, my opinion. This stuff is really based on the tenets of biology, and I'm going to share with you that now. Now, this is a kind of a very, very rudimentary drawing of our brain, and you'll see that there's really kind of two separate and distinct structures there. There's multiple structures there, but it's kind of bifurcated into two pieces that I want to share with you today. You see the arrow pointing toward the prefrontal cortex, or the cortex. This is really the part of our brain that you might refer to as kind of the Homo sapien brain. Okay? This is the part of our brain that makes us uniquely human, that is really separate, distinct from every other species on the planet. And this is where all of our higher order thinking goes on. This is where our ability to solve complex problems and communicate, speech, and everything like that is located there. In the center of your brain, as you see all those parts that are kind of highlighted in different colors, and you see an arrow pointing toward this thing called the amygdala, but that entire structure on the inside of our brain is what you refer to as the limbic center of the brain. This is the oldest part of our brain. This is the part of the brain that really controls our emotions. And most importantly, this is the part of our brain, for our conversation today, this is the part of the brain where all decisions get made. You see? So, and when you think about it, think back to the golden circle, all right? The outermost part of that circle, those two outermost parts of the circle, ask us to think, right? Kind of what we do. Okay, people can grasp that. That's a prefrontal cortex issue. Even how we do it, what makes us unique in the marketplace, that's also a cortex issue, or the exterior part of the brain issue. The why, that why part of the brain actually correlates to the limbic center of our brains, where we kind of actually live, and most importantly for us today, where decisions get made. Where decisions get made. If you go back to those questions that I asked you before, about why Martin Luther King, why Apple, why the Wright brothers, it really gets back down to a certain degree, why will people work hard for you? All right? I mean, like, if you pay them money, people work hard for your money if they're not connected to your why. But if they're connected to your why, they'll work with their heart, their soul, they'll give you their blood and sweat and their tears, they'll give you everything. So that's why it's so important for us to understand what our why is, what's in the center of that golden circle, be able to articulate that to the people who are hopefully on our team, okay, so that we can make sure that we have the right people not only on the bus, but we get the right people in the right seats on that bus. That's what we're a reference to Jim Collins and his seminal work From Good to Great. Right? So that's kind of the first part of it. How do we make sure that we get the right people? We have people who are passionate about the things that we are passionate about and are looking to give the highest quality service available to our clients, our customers. Right? So now that we've done that, how do we perpetuate that? How do we keep these people engaged moving forward? So now we're going to move on and talk a little about employee engagement and kind of why does it matter? Well, I think that's a bit redundant at this point. We've kind of addressed that already. But as I mentioned, there are really three different stages of engagement, shall we say. The first, and the one that we're looking for, is that our employees are engaged. It means they work with passion. They're really connected to the company. These are people who get the why. These are people who have bought in 100% to that why. Now, that next level, or the first level, are people who are not engaged, or people who are simply unengaged. These are people who are just kind of checked out. These are folks who do whatever it is they have to do to keep their jobs, okay, to not get fired. But they're not really giving you their all. They're not doing any of that discretionary effort that really makes a difference between companies that are good and companies that are great, okay? And the third, though, the most insidious portion is what we refer to as actively disengaged employees. And these are people who aren't just unhappy, but they're acting out when they're unhappy. These are people I like to refer to as the bomb throwers in the organization, who are constantly causing problems, constantly causing conflict and difficulty, making life uncomfortable, even for those people who truly, truly enjoy what it is that they're doing.
So Milton, can I quick
maintain?
Sorry, Milton.
Absolutely.
Quick comment on the previous slide. The engaged scale there of the 3 levels. Do you find that that's an environmental issue? Engaged people can attract and develop and create more engaged people, and actively disengaged people can pull people in that opposite direction too. Hence the importance and urgency for really addressing that type of environment, because it's viral, and your organization is going in one direction or the other, and you need to work on the engaged direction. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. Actually, I'm really glad that you brought that point out, Victor, because I think there's something. Because I want to give an example, and I've actually been thinking about this and kind of got lost in the melee of the presentation. But you're absolutely spot on. Probably one of the best organizations, and they've always come out as one of the top 10 places to work for, is a company called Zappos. I don't know if everybody on the call is familiar with who they are. They started off just selling footwear online, but now they sell a variety of different things. And they bought into this concept so much that they do the following. They have a what you might consider to be the Zappos way, which is kind of how they like to do business and how they are actively engaged in their activities. And what they do is, after you make it through the interview process and you actually get hired to work there, they actually give you the opportunity, after reviewing this guide, say, is this something that you can buy into? Is this something that you're willing to engage in fully? And if the answer is yes, that's a fantastic thing, and they welcome you with open arms. If not, though, guess what? They actually pay a $2,000 bonus for you to resign. For this reason exactly, because they know that if they have people there who are not really fully engaged in their process, who have not fully bought into the why, that it can be very, very detrimental to the organization. And they actually prefer to pay you to leave than to have you stay.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And one last thought, and I'll let you continue. When I work with my clients on this, and as we all do, when people struggle with the why, sometimes I get them to focus on the purpose. What's the purpose for waking up and coming into work? And what's the purpose for serving your customers and serving your fellow employees? What are we going to accomplish? And I believe purpose can be found in companies. If you're an auto parts distributor, there's a purpose for that company. And if you're in healthcare, there's clearly a purpose for that organization. So find the purpose, get people excited about it, and that will answer the question why for you. And that's just my interpretation, Milton.
Absolutely, Victor. I think that's spot on also. Yeah, purpose, you could replace the why with purpose, but you're absolutely correct. But I do believe, and it sounds like you concur, that that's an essential element of really building an engaging work environment, and and building a really high performance organization and team is to get people who buy into your purpose, who buy into your why. So I couldn't agree with you more there.
Thanks, Milton.
Okay. So I guess at this point, I'm going to continue on. We're going to walk through really quickly these 5 different steps of how we can create and maintain an engaged workforce, right? Because we've already talked about, finding your why or finding your purpose. We've already, with the previous, slide and kind of at the very beginning, the very intro, explained to you what the economic cost is, which is huge. It's one of those costs that is soft. We're not writing a check for it, but it has a tremendous impact on our resources. But anyway, so once we get these people who buy our purpose, who buy into our why, who are passionate about the same thing we're passionate about, how do we go about ensuring that we create an environment, a sustainable environment that's going to support that? And kind of here are our 5 steps. Right? We're going to develop a plan. We're going to craft a working environment. We're going to talk about how we empower employees, how we coach them up, and then kind of once we've got ourselves to where we kind of want to be, kind of as Victor pointed out a little earlier in the presentation, you're either getting better or you're getting worse. So how do you maintain that? What kind of structure do you put in place to make sure that you don't start to backslide? So when we go about developing our plan, we're going to do the following things. Right? We're going to answer our 4 questions that we need to establish some kind of a strategic direction. What's going to be our vision for success? And we're going to talk about the 4 dimensions of what we refer to as achievement. Okay? We're going to increase our focus and awareness of our customers, our deliverables, and our core competencies. Okay? We're going to identify the building blocks of goal setting, and we're going to talk about our key result areas, or KRAs, and then we're going to set goals in each and every one of those. Okay? So now first, the 4 questions. Okay? First things first, we have to ask ourselves and be able to identify, okay, what's our idea, vision for the future? Okay, so you think about it in terms of, you think about our purpose, our why, right? What is this driving towards? If you think back to Martin Luther King and the Civil Rights Movement, right, what is he talking about? He was talking about he had a dream that one day, his children would live in a country where they would get judged by the color of their skin, but simply by the content of their character. So that was his vision of the future, right? So now the question for you is, what's your vision? You have to answer that question. Okay? Who are our customers? Okay? Who are the people that we are actually serving? Okay? What are our deliverables? Okay? And by way of our deliverable, I think it's important at this point to mention that we shouldn't think of a deliverable as necessarily a product per se. Okay, it's a need that we're meeting. What need are we meeting, right? Because from time to time, that physical product might change, it might morph, it might be replaced by something. But the deliverable, what it is that people get from us, what they're actually buying, what need we're actually satisfying. That's important to us. And really, what are our core competencies? So those are the 4 questions that we would need to kind of answer first. Okay? Like I said, what's your vision? We have that question of what the future is and vision. We need to find a way to make those things intersect. If you recall back on that slide, we talked a little bit about achievement dimensions. Okay? How do we measure success on these 4 different achievement dimensions, right? Customer satisfaction. And this needs to be taken from the perception of our customers, right? What do they think is actually important to them? Not what necessarily we think is important, but what they think is important. Okay? Or organizational culture. Okay, well, what's it like to work here? Go back to my Zappos example, right? Big folks at Zappos, they say they think culture trumps all. So culture is important, and they want to make sure that you can fit into the Zappos way of doing things. Okay? Then we look at our internal operations, okay? The adequacy and the efficiency of our internal processes, okay? How we do things. Okay? Are they the right things, and are we doing those things in the right way? And then fourth and finally, even though, a profit is an outcome, it is a measure that's important to us, and one that we need to kind of keep our arms around as it relates to, are we really achieving our goals? Because ultimately, we have to make money to continue to be in business to kind of get to the full service of that why. So those are our achievement dimensions. I think the next thing that is important that we all need to kind of tie all of these things together is really what's our core competency. Right? Core competency, as you can see, can be defined as a bundle of skills, technologies, capabilities that provide a strategic advantage. Now, for us to consider that advantage to truly be strategic, it has to kind of match up to these 4 points here, right? It has to deliver value to our customers. It must differentiate us from our competitors. Oftentimes, it can be a basis for entry into new marketplaces. Think about Apple and their innovation. What is it that made this computer company think they could get into MP3 players or telephones or all the other things that they're into now? Even now, with Apple Pay, all these different things, right? So what is it that makes them unique, that core competency that allows them to enter new markets? And for it to really be strategic, for it to be a core competency, number 4 is vital, right? It can't be something that is easily duplicated or replicated by our competitors. If it can be easily duplicated or replicated, it truly is not a core competency, because we can be replaced in the marketplace. So those are some of the thoughts about what a core competency is.
Milton, I really like this slide, and it's a perfect example. The past couple of slides have been of why employee engagement and leadership are bottom line fundamental business issues. I don't believe that it's possible to achieve this level of core competency that you talk about unless employees can engage each other in actively serving each other and the client. Employees need to engage each other in problem solving and eliminating things that get in the way of that ideal customer or patient experience. And it really comes down to soft skills being affecting the bottom line and creating what we call operational excellence. So thank you for these slides. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's been my pleasure, Victor. And by the way, it's funny you keep referring to it as soft skills, and I hear that all the time. But I always like to say, soft skills are oftentimes the hardest thing to master, and it really is the difference between succeeding on a really large scale and just getting by. So anyway, let's continue. We have a lot of content to cover and not that much time. So let me continue on. There's just something I threw in there because I think it's so vital for leaders to understand really kind of what are your employees looking for, right? Now that we've kind of got the right people, what is it really at their core that's important to them? Well, we found out that research indicated that they have really 3 prime needs. They have something that's interesting work. We can kind of check that box when we get people who are really committed to our why or to our purpose, right? Because they're all in. They want to be recognized when they do a good job, which is a basic fundamental human need that we all want to feel appreciated. And third and finally, it's about communication. If you want partners instead of employees, you need to treat them like partners. And what I mean by that is you need to let them know what's going on. Okay, the more information, the better. The more you share with them, the more they're going to feel as though they're a partner in this business, the more you're going to get that discretionary effort that really is a key separator. So those are three really important things, and this was said by Zig Ziglar. I'm sure a lot of you have probably heard of Mr. Ziglar, really outstanding motivational speaker. But anyway, okay. Now, how do we craft a working environment that's going to be really conducive to engagement? And I really wish I had highlighted the word trust here. I didn't, but ultimately, the key is really about this idea called trust. Right? And trust is really an amalgamation of these three highlighted points, specifically in a business setting. Now, these work kind of in all settings, but since we're talking about business right now, we're going to focus on that. Right? There are three things. First and foremost is integrity. It simply means that people act from a set of guiding principles, or they're consistent. Right? There's a consistent nature. Competence. Right? You need to have people who are capable of fulfilling their roles. In other words, I need to be able to trust, you need to be able to trust that the person who you're going to be relying on can do the job. Okay? And then third and finally, compassion. People care about the needs of others. If we have those three elements in our working environment, we will be far down the road in crafting the kind of working environment that's going to nurture the engagement and the enthusiasm that we're looking for. Three vital things, right? Integrity, competence, compassion. Now, kind of to support that is a simple relationship truth. Right? We improve our relationships not by changing others, but by changing how we are in relation to others. Right? Those three things we just talked about. Right? Integrity, competence, and compassion.
You know, that's great, Milton, because when people are engaged with a, shall we say, even a belligerent employee or peer, or just, you know, there's a lot of behaviors that we find in the workplace that are not pleasant, if you will. But it's really, you have to turn the conversation and the engagement that's not about the individual and focus on the business requirements there. So, you know, it's important to shift people off of trying to change other people and get back to the purpose and the why of why we all showed up to work in the first place.
Absolutely. And you know, once we, and if you foster trust, you know, you can really go a long way to avoiding those things. So let's face it, you know, people are not going to agree all the time, but when we build a level of trust with one another, it's amazing how we can get by some of those disagreements, or how we can depersonalize some of those disagreements. So yeah, I think that's vitally important. Now I'm going to talk real briefly about different styles of communicating. If you recall back to earlier comment, you remember the Zig Ziglar quote, one of the things that people needed was to be informed. They need to be involved. And they need to really, so communication is kind of a foundational requirement for an engaged workforce. Now, there are really 4 different ways which we find that communication takes place, or what we refer to as 4 styles of communication. One is, first and foremost, is that to dominate, if you think it kind of runs on this kind of on 2 axes. We have advocacy and empathy. Advocacy is about my point of view. Empathy is about your point of view. We try to dominate conversation. By the way, this happens a lot of times when you're in a kind of an old kind of management paradigm where it was about a command and control kind of approach to life. We have an awful lot of this where it's always about me, high degree of advocacy and a low degree of empathy. Okay? Not necessarily beneficial, especially in light of the way people communicate now, people's willingness to challenge authority. So it doesn't really work that well. The next hour we'll talk about something called accommodating or accommodation, right? Where we are a high degree of empathy, low degree of advocacy. So we're a bit overly concerned with the other person's perspective and point of view. And by the way, all these dominant, accommodating, and what you'll see on the next slide, really all come at a cost, right? I dominate the conversation and I'm forcing my way upon you. You know, for a period of time, that might appear on the surface to work, but most typically what we find out is under the surface, we're continuing to disengage. So even though we have great folks, we're not treating them so great, we start to see a tipping point heading back and away from engagement. If we accommodate, we can build up an awful lot of frustration. We feel as though we're being taken advantage of. Once again, not really productive. The next style, avoiding, this is low degree of empathy, low degree of advocacy. This is a person who just hates conflict, per se. But it tends to build up animosity and frustration on both sides, once again, undermining our goal to really engaging our workforce. The fourth communication style, though, is really the kind of communication style that I'm advocating, and I think is the kind that you're going to find most frequently in engaged workforces and in higher performing organizations. Okay, this is what we refer to as dialogue. Okay, in dialogue we have a high degree of advocacy and a high degree of empathy. In other words, I guess to go back to what Victor talked about just a few moments ago, it's depersonalizing the issue. It's not my, my solution or Victor's solution. It's what's the best solution for our business, and we both get to advocate for our positions, not about ourselves. And hopefully we'll come to a conclusion that is in the best interest of the enterprise overall. That most typically happens when we have open and honest and free dialogue with one another. The other three communication styles tend not to lead to a lot of dialogue and really are detrimental to the organization as a whole. So those are 4 different styles of communication. And by way of definition, dialogue defined, it's really shared understanding. So we have an atmosphere of respect and goodwill. And we'll find a mutually beneficial outcome. So we begin to depersonalize it. We realize that if there's a disagreement, it's a disagreement about ideas. We're not devaluating people. And we will ultimately come to the best outcome for all concerned. That really is what dialogue is all about. What is it we're trying to accomplish when we kind of use that communication model? Ultimately, and I've talked about this to a degree, but I think this slide is a really great kind of point-by-point guide, shall we say, of how we can empower our employees. And by empowering them, we're doing 2 things. A, they're actively engaged, okay, which, as you can see by the Gallup study, is something that should be of concern to almost any person who is in business. But B, we are actually going to get from them everything we can get from them because they're full partners in our business. So I'm getting from Victor everything that Victor has to offer. From everybody else on this call, if we empower you properly, we're going to optimize you. We're going to get the best thing out of you. The way we do it is by kind of, I don't know if any of you have heard of Maslow's hierarchy, but at the top of the pyramid, I believe it was, and it's been a while ago, so correct me if I'm wrong. It was self-actualization. So if you look at the empowering leader, they really help their employees actualize, right? I don't answer questions for you. I help you develop better problem-solving skills. We empower other people. I'm not going to do everything. We help you learn from your mistakes. We help you grow. We help you become a better, more full human being. And we help you develop your self-confidence. We become, we help you improve the quality of your work. All those kind of things, we are going to maximize you. We're going to maximize your productivity, which is going to accrue both the benefit of the organization and all the people involved.
Milton,
Now let's go.
just real quick
Go
on
ahead.
that last slide. I try not to interrupt you too much, but that's, if you'll notice the bee, the bumblebee in the top right corner, that's our worker bee. And what this slide talks about is the empowerment of the worker bee. And that's why we believe, or at least I believe, I won't speak for you, that operational excellence in terms of tactical execution starts from the ground up, from the front line, and rises up to the senior management, and then you've got a loop going on. But it's, if you really want to change your organization, you'll look at the slide and change the way that you manage people and trust people and allow them to solve their own problems and allow them to take credit for their solutions. It's a different mindset for middle managers, and they need to, some need to give up their notion that they need to do it all, that they need to be the hero, that they need to be the problem solver. What they really need to be is the facilitator, and that's what, and I thank you for presenting this slide, Milton. It's a great slide.
Oh, wow. Thanks, Victor. And you know what? You're absolutely right. And it kind of brings me back to the slide that I opened up with. And I actually love that. That's your logo. What is it? People, process, and performance.
Correct.
It's absolutely true. And if your people are the engine that makes your organization go. And to the degree that you're able to, because you can build the greatest processes in the world, but if you don't build your people, if you don't engage your people, if you don't allow your people to grow, then you're really short-circuiting that entire process. Absolutely, couldn't agree more. I know we're getting close, so I'm going to go through these next few slides as quickly as I can go. Okay. Now that we've kind of built this framework out, the next thing that we need to do to kind of build on that last slide that we just shared with you is we need to start coaching, right? Coaching our employees, coaching those who report to us, or even across functional lines within the organization. But coaching is going to be one of our keys. It's really about how we can help the employee reach their goals, and how those goals, and how we can tie those goals back to what's in the interest of the organization overall moving forward. Okay. So when we get into coaching, okay, what are the things that we're trying to do? Well, obviously we want them to perform better. We want to create this high-performance organization. We want to make sure that they're setting goals. I think the term that was in From Good to Great was BHAG, Big, Hairy, Audacious Goals. Right? We want to make sure that they're really challenging. We need to help the employee learn about themselves, their strengths, their weaknesses, how they can get better, okay? And really how to deal with those things that might be performance blockers for them, right? Things that would cause them to not perform at their peak, and kind of help them take more positive action. So those are some of the goals that we have as coaches, some of the things that we should be doing as leaders, as I think they coined a term that Victor just talked about, as facilitators, because that's really kind of, actually I like that term better than managers, is a facilitator. Okay. But as a coach, as a facilitator, what do we have to believe, right? Well, there's some things we have to believe, there's some principles, right? We have to believe in people. I don't know how many of you, and I may be kind of letting my age a little bit here, but back when I was an undergraduate in management courses, they used to teach Theory X and Theory Y management. And Theory X was basically that people want to be trusted, and they needed to be, you need the right hurt on them to get out of them what it is that we're paying them for. Theory Y that took a much more positive approach to people. And we said, hey, people are good, and we just need to help them and direct them. And kind of, so one of the fundamental principles of coaching is really derived from the old Theory Y. Right? We don't personalize things. It's about outcomes. Okay? And a good coach, as we're helping folks, it's not just about work. It's about all areas of their lives, right? Because people are complex social beings, and if they're challenging one part of their life, it typically is going to bleed over another part. So we need to take a look at them more holistically as folks. So it's not just about work. Okay? And our fourth and final principle here is that it's really about relationships. We're social beings. We need to build relationships. We do that. That can be the catalyst for those that we hope to coach to trust us enough that they'll work with us in such a way that we're able to really help them achieve their goals. Okay? Now we're talking about how can we maintain the engagement. Now that we've gone through, we've got our why, we've got the right people on the bus, we have them in the right positions, we have created an environment that is conducive to their growth and their engagement and their partnership with us in our business. We have put into place appropriate strategies and systems and structures. We have all those things down. How do we maintain? How do we make sure that we don't let this thing slip? Okay. Well, just like with success, okay, engagement is a process. It's not a destination. So we need to focus on engagement on a daily basis. Right? It needs to be something that we work on regularly. Okay. We need to make sure that we communicate, right? That we use dialogue. We communicate our expectations. Because if people aren't clear on exactly what we're expecting from them, sometimes we're going to run into challenges. Third, we need to build relationships. And we're social beings. That's just the nature of the beast. It's important for us to build relationships. Okay? And fourth and finally, it's a process. It's going to be cyclical. There are going to be good days. There's going to be bad days. But we just cannot give up. We have to trust the process. We have to believe in the process, and we have to implement the process. Okay? So don't ever give up. Well, at this point, I'm done talking. I've enjoyed sharing with you. Hopefully that I've provoked some good questions that we can continue our dialogue for the next few moments, but I'm going to open it up.
Okay. This is a good opportunity to ask Milton a question. We have other folks on the board as well, a board meeting on this webinar for Business Performance USA, Dr. Jeff Stewart, Cynthia Stewart, and myself, Victor. You can use the question feature or the chat feature to ask us a question. And we do have, I've got one question here, and I appreciate that. I think I'll paraphrase, let me see if I can paraphrase this. This individual, I quote, I like what you're talking about. I believe what you're saying, but my boss doesn't understand. And I'll just throw in the ellipsis after that. Understand employee engagement, understand the things you're talking about here, Milton. Question is, how can this individual begin to affect change and, engage peers and employees in the manner that you're talking about? So how do you start, in a sense, when your environment isn't necessarily conducive to the principles that you talk about, Milton? It's a big question.
Okay, and hopefully, it's funny, I've been asked this question before, and it's interesting. And Victor, if you don't have this, I'm going to forward this resource to you, and you can share it with whoever the questioner is. But there's actually there's a book out called Managing Up, and it really talks about how can you manage your boss, because oftentimes you're right, you're not the ultimate decision maker. You can't necessarily just go in and implement these great ideas because there's great ideas. Well, one of the things I think that you can do as a middle manager or as a subordinate when you're playing that role, to kind of surreptitiously, shall we say, implement some of these things, is really by the idea of what I like to refer to as alignment. In other words, what are the things that are important to your boss? What are the things that he or she are primarily concerned with? And if you find out what those things are, and then you begin to apply some of these concepts, some of these processes to things that are important to them, it's amazing sometimes at how you can get them to move. It's kind of like putting, a spoonful of sugar in, what the old saying, a spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. Well, if you align yourself with their interests, here's the things that are important to them, and then you figure out how you can apply these principles to those things so that the things that are important to them get done more effectively, get done more efficiently, and they see growth. You'll begin to engage them as a partner in the overall growth process. So, but there's, like I said, there's a book called Managing Your Boss that really goes into much greater detail than I can go into right now in this, our next few moments together. But I will pass that information on to Victor. He can share it with the question.
That's terrific, Milton, and I do like that advice. We do all have to consider to manage up, and I don't care where you are in an organization. CEOs need to manage up to the board, and the board needs to manage up to the stockholders, and on and on. And so that's always in the top of our mind. I'll add to that, and I think you surreptitiously, if I can pronounce all those syllables. What I tell folks is, reach out first to your peers and try and identify a small sphere of influence, meaning you can find one other to practice these principles with, and then the two of you find one other, then the three of you find six, and six find 12. But start really with a small sphere of influence, which is a controlled environment where you're not upsetting the apple cart. And I agree, then you well articulate and identify the results that the business and your boss want. And people love success and results. And together, as a small peer group, you can affect this kind of change, solve your problems, and really deliver improved results. And your boss is going to say, what is going on? And people really come around real quickly to accepting change when they see that change is better. Change scares people. The reason they don't often embrace new styles of management is because of the uncertainty, and they haven't simply been shown that there's a better way. But when you can deliver a result, even a marginal result, you can then start to affect change yourself. And we've seen it here at Business Performance all the time, where change, it's a grass fire, and it starts from the ground up. And trust me, managers get on board real fast when they see improved results. So I'm going to check one last time. And Milton, I'm going to just get off the microphone and let you close out with any last comments you may have. That I'll do a little housekeeping, and we're out of here.
Okay, fantastic. I guess if there's any last thought that I'd like to leave with everyone, and once again, I appreciate your attention, and I hope that you found something useful here. But there's an old saying, I'm sure that most of you have probably heard it before, and it goes something like this. It goes, knowledge is power. I'm sure that quite a few people on the call have heard that before. And that sounds good, but at the end of the day, I really believe that action is power. And it's great to accumulate new knowledge. It's great to learn new things. But those things won't change the course of your life or the course of your organization's life until you begin to take action upon them. So I'd just like to leave you with that thought and suggest that you make a commitment today. If there's something here that resonated with you, that you make a commitment today that you are going to take action on at least one of those things, and you'll start to see things change. It's been a real great pleasure, and I look forward to speaking with the group sometime again in the future. Victor?
We do conduct a webinar every week, as you can see. What's in a Name by Nancy Roberts, Track 1 Technology. They're a background screening company helping companies make the right decision with the right hires. Building the Board of Your Dreams. Kent Stroman is a brilliant nonprofit facilitator and consultant, and really helps grow nonprofits. And the next is Nonverbal Communication with Emily Shoup. We do encourage you to send emails, victor@businessperformanceusa.org. And lastly, I'll give you a snapshot of what our website looks like. Of course, this is Business Performance USA. Come here, pardon me, and become a member. And you will be able to tap into all of our webinars and information. We have well over 50 webinars we've produced in the past. A lot of content here to help you grow, create awareness of how to change your organization, and it gives you the opportunity to reach out to us and ask us questions. What about this? How about that? Where do we begin? What can we expect? All those type of communications. And with that, Milton, I'll thank you first. Brilliant presentation, and I really appreciate it, and I always add to my knowledge bank. Thank you, Dr. Jeff Stewart, for being here in the background and your support, and Cynthia Stewart as well, 3 key members of Business Performance USA. And here we go. Thank you so much, everyone. Be well and take care.